Welcome to the Outbound Edge, a practical, straight-talking podcast for business leaders, IT decision makers, where we're going to look behind the slideware into how modern organisations make technology work, from the service desk to the boardroom. Outbound specialists and trusted partners will unpack real-world challenges without the jargon or hype. I'm Keith Bucknall, co-founder and Chief Information Technology Officer here at Outbound. In this series, I'm joined by leaders, vendors, guests, practitioners and innovators who are redefining how we approach IT, risk, service, and cutting through that noise to focus on what really delivers value. If you're responsible for technology, security or digital change, you're in the right place. So let's get into today's conversation. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of our podcast series. Today I'm joined by Ed Kidson from TrustLayer. Today we're going to be going through AI risk, governance, some of the reality behind the hype, and also how we can protect ourselves while empowering our users to look at web-based AI solutions. Ed, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Keith. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So, I thought we'd start with, who are you, what's your history, and who's TrustLayer, if you don't mind?
Yeah, not at all. So I'm Ed Kidson. I am a channel manager here at TrustLayer. I've been in the industry for about 20 odd years. Probably wouldn't believe it looking at me, but there we go. And across that time, I've had various experience across a number of different vendors. I've seen technologies come and go. And today, we're talking about AI. Everyone's talking about AI, and we'll dive into that a bit deeper in a bit. TrustLayer itself as a business is a UK security vendor. We've got a cloud-based platform which covers a number of different security aspects, from email through to security awareness training, and really sort of the crown jewels for us is that web and that cloud application security piece, and I think that's where we're going to mostly dive in today to look at that.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I've always looked at, we've had a great relationship with you guys. There are other competitors and vendors in this space, but you guys and what TrustLayer are doing, the vision around that does focus, especially on the web and the CASB stuff, which we'll come on to, does really focus around AI, whereas a lot of the other vendors come at this from more of a web security point of view. Is that kind of what you're seeing? And
yeah, absolutely.
Is there a reason?
I think the reason behind that is, in the past, security was easy. We just said no to things.
Yeah.
We liked that. That was nice. We can't do that anymore. So today, we need people to embrace AI. There's a lot of good that can come from AI, and I know that we're going to talk today, and it's going to sound like you and me hate it, but actually, that's not the truth. But by embracing the technology and the way we're allowing people to use technology and not stifle innovation, but put sensible controls around it, and that's where we're sort of coming from, rather than the sort of traditional web security, it's on or it's off, so you can use it or you can't, and that's where we're sort of really coming from with this.
I've got a really interesting stat which I think is going to echo this, right? So I've got a few stats we'll go through as we go through the chat, but and I can put links into where these sources are from, but it says 93% of organisations that are adopting and using AI in some capacity, but interestingly, only 7% have embedded governance and embedded security around their user base. So true is, are you seeing a general trend towards, in the old days we had that shadow IT, and we had to look at what users were doing, what people were doing. Yes, they could have access to Dropbox, but they couldn't do this. So what are you seeing in the industry with your customers, partners, and what are they seeing?
So, yeah, interesting you say in the old days, because I would say that's very much current. That's still
True.
What we're seeing. We're still seeing that the old adages of Dropbox, etc., but equally now with the AI engines and the AI usage, and we're seeing different engines and different agents being added almost on a daily basis in AI. You ask people to name them, they might be able to name 5. Our catalogue has got well over 200 and growing at an extortionate amount. So,
it's interesting.
People really don't have that insight into what people are using. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't want to stifle people, because the best AI agent for your business might be something that someone has found in your accounts team.
Yeah.
But if you don't know they're using it, and you you don't know how to control it. So you first of all got to have that visibility. You've got to have that insight into the shadow IT. So it's not really old. It's still there. It's just we're looking at different applications. We're still seeing all the old stuff, but we're adding AI to that stack.
And we're seeing a lot where, it must be Copilot. We've all lived in the Microsoft world. I know there's everything else out there, but Copilot. When in fact, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, or any of those might suit those use cases a lot better, or it might be a combination of them. As you said, like finance do this, and PAs and EAs will need something else. But is it a case of kind of siloing people with one stack, or is it a case of then saying, well, actually, you can have all the stacks, but you just need to understand how you control them?
I think it's important, to understand the use case, what people are using the AI for. Now, I reckon, and from talking to various users in our experience, that most people are using it to either create pictures of themselves with as dolls, rewriting emails, writing marketing material because they can, it's much cheaper than hiring marketing people now, sadly, or for things like translation. So they're not really using it for the sort of some of the more in-depth usage that we can get from AI, which is where that 7% of your stats would come back in, where people are actually going, right, I can use this to run my customer service desk, and I can suddenly say 80% of my calls can be answered using an AI chatbot. Now that's much more innovative, and I dare say you're not going to use Copilot for that, right? No. So you're absolutely right. You need to have different departments are going to want different engines. It's very easy to go down a Copilot route because it's included in the price.
Yep.
But actually, is it right for your business? And what I would say, though, whatever you need to do when you decide what is right for each different department is you buy an enterprise license. Don't use freeware. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
If you go and have a look at the T's and C's or whatever, you just quickly tick, say, yeah, I'm going to do it. We never, no one ever does. Let's not beat around the bush. You'll see that they keep the data for X amount of days, years, or they use your data.
I was going to say
train the AI engine.
Versions,
so if it's training the engine, someone from your accounts quite innocently might upload your company accounts to reformat them and make them look pretty. So we've seen it, and then now I can put in the right prompts into that AI engine, and I can retrieve all that information. Which is pretty scary. Now, if you buy an enterprise account, you'll get some level of protection around that about where your data's going. But again, it comes back to if you don't know what people in your organisation are using, then how can you have those controls?
What if I put my IT director hat on? I'm managing a business. I'm looking after everything, and I'll kind of say, well, I've got my firewalls, I've got my web app security. It's all fine. And then when you'd ask yourself the question of, but then how do you know who's using what? And how do you know who's doing that? And are they doing it on a personal machine, or are they doing it on a work machine, and they've managed to somehow get to ChatGPT and not the business version? So I wonder in that scenario how, especially for some of our audience and customers, is what's the recommended advice there? Because they're going to go, well, I've got web security, it's fine.
Yeah, so if you've got web security, again, that's that kind of on-off, and you've got to rely that the latest AI engine that came out yesterday has been caught in the right category that you've got in your web security, and that they're not using it. Or, and as you sort of alluded to there, let's take Copilot as an obvious example. I can log into Copilot. I'll allow Copilot. It's my corporate AI agent. I've approved it. I've got the license. Happy days. I'll just log onto my machine, but I might log in my personal address, so my personal Microsoft account. I can't block that using web security. So what our approach using our CASB product, which is, thanks Gartner for the name of Cloud Application Security Broker, right?
Yeah.
Still doesn't mean anything when you say the words out loud.
No.
But basically, I like to think of it more of web security on steroids.
Yes.
So it will allow you to do things like saying, okay, you can access Copilot, but you can only log in with your Outbound group credentials, for example. So if you don't have a corporate login, we're blocking you. We can do things like redirecting. You go to ChatGPT and it will redirect you back to Copilot. So we can do all sorts of clever stuff like that. But above and beyond it, what we can do is we can apply controls based on risk levels. So let's say uploading a file. So we can then block anyone uploading files to cloud applications, and we can obviously then whitelist Copilot if that's what we've chosen, or whatever it might be. But it goes beyond just AI, obviously, it's other things like personal email. We've all done it, right? We've all used our personal email to send a file. Not
Interestingly, yesterday I was talking to someone with exactly that, and Stephen, who's on our next podcast, was on the call, and they were saying that their executive team travel a lot, so they need access to their personal email addresses. So do you, on corporate phones, on corporate devices, say no, and then with execs comes a lot of noise and a lot of friction with the IT teams? Or do you allow it? But then if you do allow it, how do you still protect that corporate data and get the best of both worlds, really?
Yeah, and so that's it. So you could be really draconian, as you say. So you cannot use Gmail on a corporate machine, and people get frustrated and either leave or they'll find some other workaround or whatever. But if you say, well, yes, you can do it, and you can receive emails, we can go down to the level of you can't send them, or you can send them but you can't attach any data.
Right.
So then you can't upload files. So you can therefore we've given them a bit of flexibility. We're not stifling people's work-life balance too much, but equally we're drawing a line in the sand, and we are protecting corporate data to stop that. And it's exactly the same with the AI. You can't upload the data to there. We'll stop that, but we'll let you try out these engines, and if they're great, come to IT and we'll look at buying the corporate license, etc., etc. And that way, I think any company strategy, you've suddenly got a whole workforce of people potentially looking out for new bits of software which might enhance the company.
And have you seen like an uptake in sales and uptake in people looking at the products purely just for that AI use case?
Absolutely. So it's not a new technology that we've just brought out overnight by any means, but suddenly the interest is there. It's immense because AI has exploded, if you like, and shadow IT is now massive because everyone's realised that people are using various AI tools, amongst other things. I hasten to add, like you mentioned, Box and Dropbox, they're still being used.
Yeah.
I love PDF, main offender. So they're all in there, but this has really caused a bit of an explosion in the marketplace for us around people. I need to see what people are doing with AI within my organisation and tailor my policy around it to counteract what they're doing with it.
Okay, interesting. Right, let me throw another stat. So organisations are spending 37% more time managing AI-related risks than they were 12 months ago, as the governance gaps are getting bigger because of the other stat. So, really on that, coming back to, we're not plugging and pushing some of the technology you've got, but we work with you guys quite closely. We believe in relationships with our partners as opposed to big conglomerates that you're just reselling. But if that is the case and people are worried, is the easiest thing to do is say, let's just jump on a call with you, let's show you. Can they have visibility of what people are looking at before they build business cases and look at the solutions?
Absolutely. So we can jump on a call with any potential customer, and we're not fussed by size necessarily. We truly believe the smallest organisation probably should have just as good a security as the biggest. We can deploy a trial environment. Within 2 weeks, you will get full visibility of every application that your users are using within your organisation. And it's as simple as an agent that is deployed onto the machines, it's rolled out, and you're good to go. You've got that visibility there in front of you. You can see not only what applications they're doing, what they're doing within those applications. So
what's really interesting then is we do a lot of co-pilot readiness assessments, the buzzword. Really what that's looking at is our company's 365, the data, SharePoint, Teams, etc. Is it locked down? Is it in a good state before you deploy Copilot? But obviously we see a lot of people just buying the licenses, giving them maybe to higher management execs to do the emails, as opposed to maybe some of the lower end teams that could use that ops processing. But one thing we've never ever covered, which is interesting, is your staff using other AI tools? And if they go no, you go, well, prove it. So I guess one thing is, and it's just thinking out loud more than anything, was if people are looking at Copilot and we're doing Copilot readiness tests, readiness assessments, it should really be AI assessments and be looking at what are they doing today. And I guarantee probably 8 out of 10 businesses won't know what they're doing today.
Interestingly enough, last week, and this is too much of a coincidence, last week we ran a proof of concept for an existing customer who had our web security. They told us they're a Copilot house. Absolutely. They've got policy in place. Everyone uses Copilot.
Yep.
We ran the trial, and within under a week, we had over 20 different AI agents that people were using. Almost everything but Copilot was being used. So they'd got the policy, they'd given people, this is what you should use, they'd given them the license, but they hadn't looked outside of that fairly narrow channel of what are actually people actually doing. And so this is the issue. And I have had a conversation with someone else who said, I know exactly what my users are using. Yep. And I said, how did you know? And so I interviewed them all, and I sat down with them when I asked them what AI agents they used, and they told me. And I sort of looked at him, and I was being polite, but I said, well, I'm assuming they told you what you wanted to hear. And then they went back to using whatever they were using.
Right.
Because, again, he's got to have the visibility. And when you're looking at compliance and governance, if you can't see what people are doing and what applications they're using and what they're doing in those applications and where your data's going, how can you even begin to talk about being compliant or stand up to any regulatory body?
Yep.
Because you are effectively completely blind to what 50% of is happening in your organisation. You've got absolutely, what they're doing with Microsoft, but you're kind of head in the sand over here when you're looking outside of it.
I had a story actually about a business, and there was a person responsible for the board meetings and writing all the board meetings up, and obviously that's quite mostly confidential. So what they did was they went to the free version of ChatGPT, uploaded the minutes, and said, could you, and a recording that was on her phone, could you cross-reference and retype everything? And I'm not plugging another solution, which I haven't got here, but I bought this Claude Note Pro, which is like revolutionary. It's a little thing, and you push the button, and it records everybody. It says speaker 1, speaker 2. It's the business version. And then you can give it a template and say, write the minutes up. But coming back to that example, they'd done it, and they'd done it on the free version, and it turned out there was some competitive confidential information that a competitor could look at and see. So, are we aiming this at kind of IT, driving this, risk and compliance, information security? Are we aiming this more at the board level, going, you should really have that top-down approach? What's your...
I think it needs to be top-down. I mean, yes, obviously there's an IT, there's a technology piece to it, but you've got to have, it's risk, right? Board members, they deal in risk. That is, most of their job is, do I do this, a decision, yes, no, and it's based on risk. And yet they can somehow manage to sort of let this IT drift, if you like, into this AI world. And once they've got the visibility and they can see the risks and they can see the data that's been uploaded, and say it could be something as innocent as some meeting notes, then they're going to have to do something about it. And that doesn't just mean writing a policy, and that's where we then need to get the technology guys involved. And then they come together and go, right, what technology can we use to implement this policy? Because we know that getting someone to sign a company handbook saying I will only use my computer and use the sanctioned apps is not necessarily going to work. And I will hasten to add that it's 99% is not done maliciously. It's done because they want to be more efficient. They want to get their job done. They want to get the email sent out.
Yep.
They want to.
We're all under pressure.
We're all under pressure, and that's when mistakes happen. And they aren't. We're very easy. We can be a bit glib in IT. I think sometimes users, they're a bit daft, aren't they? And you go, well, yeah, they're a lawyer, right? They can do stuff we wouldn't dream of doing and use words we can't spell.
Yep.
They don't do IT. So we need. You've got to have some controls and some checks and balance in there, and we need to do other things around. Whose responsibility, well, it's everybody's responsibility. Security is everybody's responsibility within the organisation, and that's a message which needs to, again, come from the top down, but it needs to be spread out across.
I think it's changing a little bit because, like, the NCSC have started to try and mandate Cyber Essentials as like the baseline, but But I think even Cyber Essentials is playing catch up because it hasn't covered and doesn't cover AI, and in fact the 2026 announcements are still more infrastructure-y focused as opposed to anything else. So I know there's like an ISO accreditation 42000 or 42001 now that's come out about AI and governance.
Yeah.
But I wonder if from an educational point of view or a messaging from us as a provider or vendors, I wonder if we're missing something there by going, you might have ISO here or SOC 2 here or HIPAA, but hang on, what about not the AI threat, but AI leakage, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that needs to be addressed. Like you say, it's not in Cyber Essentials, and yet I can guarantee you all small businesses are using it.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though,
Yeah.
you like a stat, I heard one the other day that only about 5% of businesses have signed up for Cyber Essentials. So
yeah, there is a big...
Which is a big concern, really, if you think,
Yeah.
everyone goes, well, what are the government doing about it? And the government have a couple of options. They could put us behind a big firewall, Chinese style, if you want to live like that. Or they could put in place things like Cyber Essentials and everyone could do it and give a certain level of cyber hygiene.
They've targeted like the Fortune 500, but I'm kind of like with your point was the small businesses because they sadly they get targeted a lot more.
Exactly, and I think we are seeing a slight change in those behaviours because of the supply chain attacks. The larger organisations and government are now sort of saying, well, actually, if you want to supply us, you need to have Cyber Essentials or you need to have ISO or whatever it is. But ISO is a massive overhead for a small business.
It is.
Cyber Essentials less so. So there needs to be that balance. But you're right. I think that they've missed a trick in that AI piece. So if you want to have a word with the boys and girls at NCSC, that would be good.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that would be the next podcast.
Do you hold much sway there?
No. When I was in the Navy, we did a bit, but no. I guess then. Mobile phones, like you can install Grok and all of them, and in fact I've called my ChatGPT app, again business I'll add, Bob, because it's just easier. Is there a way of protecting the phones if they're corporate phones? I know we can't touch personal, but
so corporate phones, we've got a mobile application coming out any day now. It's in beta testing.
We can say that, can we?
We can say that. It's definitely public knowledge. I've seen it. So for corporate applications, so then we can start making sure that we can apply those same policies on a corporate mobile as we can on a corporate laptop, for example. So you say once you get to personal devices, that gets a bit more complicated, and I would argue that if you're concerned about risk, you don't allow people and you block the use of corporate email, for example, on a personal device. But the BYOD, which is not a brand of Chinese car, bring your own device is a complicated
I did see
area.
Them. They were quite plasticky, but
probably built it on your 3D printer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we should talk more about the 3D printing. You can't build an AI for that though. However, I did use AI to convert a picture to a 3D image.
There you go.
So are we going in the right direction? Are we getting it right? Do we need to do a bit more of an education piece?
I think
I'm not going to. Our cyber event, I was always talking about Terminator and Skynet, which obviously is the far end of stuff. So we won't dive into that, but I still think maybe we're missing a bit of an education piece on.
I think we are, and I think that we've always lived in a world where people are expected to know how to use IT, whether it's AI, whether it's Windows, I can guarantee you I don't use 90% of the features on my iPhone because no one's ever shown me how to use them, and it'll do things. But I know how to do everything I need to do, and every now and then you find something else out. But we don't educate users across any platforms really. Even CRM, you brought out a new CRM, you do one training session at the beginning, and then everyone uses it, and that's it. So I think there's definitely an education piece missing, and I think that really it needs to come from people like Outbound Group. It needs to come from people who've got they're seeing it every day, they're living, they're breathing the tech, they've got good relationships with their customers who can then go, right, this is what we've seen, this is how you should use this tech, these are the dangers. And we can do ongoing cyber awareness training and bits and pieces, that's great, but what else, even how people are looking at are they even looking at the output they're getting from their AI engines? So some of the stuff I've been sent by marketing companies and this and that, it's almost comical.
With the dashes or the hyphens.
The dashes and the hyphens. Someone sent me
admit.
something the other day, and it was about another company in the States called TrustLayer. And they'd obviously put it into AI, and it pulled all this information, and it was really great, except none of it related to what we did as a business. So no one had even read it.
Funny you should say. I had an email. Well, someone else close to me had an email, but it was an email that was sent to them they generated it in AI. And with the square brackets, you get insert name. They'd actually copied it to that degree where it said, hi, Joe Blogs, blah, 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 insert name. And they said, well, what do I do? I said, well, I'd reply and go, what's this? Did you generate this? What do you mean? And it actually had further down, actually thinking about it, it had insert date. So they didn't even bother. They just copied and pasted it.
I have heard someone say that, you should do it the other way around. You should write what you want, then put it into there. To tweak it.
I think that's where Copilot's pretty decent.
Rather than saying, write this, and then it will just spit out some generic stuff. But again, watch what you're putting in there.
Yes, that's true. So what does good look like in this new world? What should we, if we had the ideal, we want to provide that service to the users, we want them to embrace this, but we want to do it in a governance-approved way and in a secure way. What does...
So look, I think...
Other than obviously buy...
Obviously you've got to buy a mountain of TrustLayer product, but you need to have, whether it's our tool or someone else's tool, a tool like a CASB tool that can see all the applications that are being used, all the AI applications and others, but all the AI applications, and then control what you can do within them, depending on whether they're sanctioned, unsanctioned, and then you're covered off for that new one that comes out tomorrow. You know that no one's going to. That data leak potential has disappeared. We need to educate better around the use of AI and what we should and shouldn't use it for as a business, and don't hide behind policy. We can't just hide behind. We've got a policy. It might cover you somewhere, but there's no point being covered if your data's gone.
And interesting about the cyber awareness. So we're huge advocates of. I always do this spiel of the humans, us, are the first line of defence, but the last line of defence, i.e. clicking on that lovely email that does something. But funny enough, I haven't seen to date a lot of awareness training platforms starting to talk about the common AIs, the web-based AIs, so the top 5 or whatever. And you've got the security platform, so does that cover AI?
Within our platform we've got a various number of modules around using AI, some risks of AI, and even down to sort of some bit of training around how to spot things like deepfakes. Which is another
scary
subject, which could be a whole different podcast just to get onto those.
Yeah,
but
I was thinking of doing one, but then you go just to say, oh look, here's Keith 2.0, but then you're like, they've got you. They've got your deepfake, and you're like, oh, gosh.
Exactly. Well, you wouldn't need to sit here. Maybe I'm not sat here. We don't know.
No. But maybe with this podcast, they're going to take our voices anyway. But
we could be internet sensations. But yes. So we cover some of that off. But again, the security awareness training, I think, is designed to raise awareness. It's short, snappy stuff to say, right, everyone needs to know about this and about that, and obviously we have the phishing emails that go out to try and help people spot them. And we, that has, you see when that is deployed in businesses, it does massively change people's mindset.
Okay.
And I think that it's interesting. One of the phishing emails, the amount of IT guys who are saying, well, if I do that, then they're going to spot it. And if we send out the same mail twice to the same people at the same time, then that guy's just going to stand up and say, they sent it. And I sit there going, well, hallelujah. And you go, why? Because the guys in accounts are talking about cybersecurity. It's worked.
True. And I guess that coffee machine chat or the photocopier chat as well.
Did you see that one earlier? They're not going to get me with that one.
Yeah.
Got to try harder, guys. Yeah.
There was something really interesting on YouTube years ago, and I'll try and see if I can put a link in. They were these guys, they're comedians, and they used to take the mickey out of a video conference, an audio conference. I think there was something Crosby or something. But the point being was they came up with this one called corporate bullshit bingo, and it is that typical, what we doing here, where do we go? Right, so I guess one of the messages is we should embrace this, we can embrace it, and we can embrace it in a secure way, but we really need to understand what our user base is doing and versus what we think they're doing.
Exactly, and that's the big difference. What are they doing, not what you think they're doing. And if that's the one thing you take away from this, just take that away of don't believe that they're doing what they told you.
No.
And don't believe they've read your company policy.
and I guess, your endpoint solutions, they don't cover this sort of thing. So again, coming back to that question of, I've got web security, blah, blah, blah. But if I then go, I've got email security or I've got endpoint security, it's still not covering that web browser, that browsing.
Exactly that.
Where we're going.
It's not covering any of that sort of little piece of there. And say it's mainly around, where's that data going? What's it being used for? And that's potential risk. Because, every company, their most important asset, if they're talking to you, they'll tell you it's the people. In all honesty, I know that if I wasn't here tomorrow, I would be replaced. But our company data, our IP, if that goes, then we're finished. And that's the same with all businesses. So you really need to get a grasp on who's using your data, in which applications, and where they're uploading it, where they're putting it.
Okay. Now, we've got a webinar in a couple of weeks.
Yep, looking forward to that.
17th of March, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, got that right. So what are we going to go into a bit more detail on? What's the audience expecting to see from that?
So we'll go into a slightly deeper dive into some of the technology and the sort of controls that we can apply and have a look at, how granular we can get in terms of applications, what you can do within them, what we can see people are doing within them, and we're not going to go for a full-on demo, but we'll get into the weeds a little bit more around the technology, and also just maybe a broader overview of what I would say a good AI policy looks like. And when we keep saying policy, right?
Yeah.
Don't think of a book this thick. It's it could be a few lines. It could be fairly short, sharp. We do this, we do that. We see what people are doing. We know how to control it, but it doesn't have to be War and Peace. It's not an ISO compliant document.
No.
It's just a nice something that people might actually read.
But then can help enable both IT, the business to use it, but IT to still keep it secure.
Exactly, and that's that balance.
So at the beginning of the intros, we always say we cut through the hype and the bullshit, really. So I think for us, one of the reasons why we like TrustLayer was in the old days when you were Sensornet, the name's changed, but when you were there, I used it in 2 corporate environments, both email security and CASB. It stuck with those. It was really good performing as opposed to, I'm not knocking vendors or other competition, but I think now that we've flipped, or I've flipped the dark side, as they call it, on the supplier end, which has been a journey, another one for a vlog. We've still got that relationship. So from a TrustLayer point of view, I know you've got direct customers, I think, as well, or purely channel?
Purely channel.
Purely channel.
Yep, 100% through the channel.
So if there's partners out there, what's the benefit of using you guys? I've always said, I still will say it, people buy from people. So we're not buying from corporates, we're buying from you or someone else. So in that channel space, what can channel partners benefit from, and how do you operate?
So we're 100% channel. We've got a small agile team. We're UK based, and when I say agile, what really I think clicks with me, and one of the reasons I joined is we get stuff done.
Yep.
Yeah. So if I need a decision on anything, whether it's commercial, whether it's extending a trial, it could be anything, right? I can, if I have to, I can speak to my CEO within 30 seconds. He sits, and if I'm in the office, he's a couple of meters away. He's got a great name. He's called Ed, and we can just get decisions. Now, you might not get the answer you want 100% of the time, but we could get stuff done. Okay. All our support is UK based, so you're speaking straight through to engineers. We don't sort of tier our support. You raise a case, you go through to, if it's email, to our lead email engineer, for example. So we're really agile in that respect, but equally, we've been around for quite a long time.
Yeah.
We've got a really broad client base. We offer excellent partner margins, obviously. I don't know if you want that bit in, but
that's fine.
And
Debate,
but equally, we can list the likes of BT amongst our channel partners.
Okay.
So we're
Interesting.
Whilst we might seem small, we punch way above our weight in terms of our customer base, and that's by design. We want to remain agile, but we've got the depth there to support the larger customers.
Great. So I guess to conclude, if anyone wants any information, come and see me. They can, if we're doing this on social, I've been told there's the subscribe at some point. So that's really good. They can reach out to you guys directly on your website, and I guess the key takeaways are AI doesn't need to be a policy. Let's understand what people and the users and what you have out there, and you can help with that. And then let's look at putting the governance and security, but while maintaining the functionality that they need.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Okay. And I think for me, I'm going to take back on this Copilot readiness is we should add a bit in to understand what's outside of Copilot.
Yeah. Are you ready for what's not Copilot?
Yeah. Great. Any closing thoughts?
No, look, I think you summed it up really nicely. I think we need to embrace this new technology that AI is. I don't think we've got a choice, to be honest with you.
No.
But yeah, embrace it, but do it sensibly. Yeah. See what people are using, apply the necessary controls, and enjoy it. Right? Apparently we should all be retired very soon, and AI will be doing our jobs for us. So more time on the golf course or whatever you wish to do.
3D printing.
3D printing for you, Keith.
Yeah, that's right. So if anyone wants to know about 3D printing, let me know. That's another story. So Ed, thanks for your time. Thanks for that. We'll see everyone on the 17th of March. I'll host, you'll lead, we'll have a webinar, everything will be recorded, and there'll be some links somewhere to the sign-up pages for that.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Keith.
Great. Thanks. And thanks, everyone. Join us in the next episode.